Peter Griffin, a full-blown man-child trapped in the body of a big, clueless adult. The guy has the attention span of a goldfish and holds the title of Quahog's #1 destroyer. So today, join Quahog Corner as we dive into the Griffin multiverse and rank every Peter variant that's ever happened in the series. Let's get started. Regular Peter is the beating heart of Family Guy. He's at the center of nearly every joke, the sparks behind most conflicts, and the one who drags every episode to its ridiculous climax. Peter is impulsive, childish, and loves to pick fights with people weaker than him. But surprisingly, he also has a big heart. His refusal to grow up and his tendency to blow things out of proportion is exactly what makes him so hilariously iconic. And behind all the nonsense, Peter often delivers unexpected moments of genuine emotion, reminding us that he's not as heartless as he seems. No powers, no gimmicks, this is the Peter that made the show what it is. And for that reason, he's an easy lock for S+ rank. Japanese Peter appears in a universe where the US never dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima or Nagasaki.
According to the Multiverse Guide, this is a universe where the United States never dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima.
As a result, Japanese culture dominates the world, including suburban America and the Griffin family. Dressed in a traditional kimono, speaking with exaggerated Japanese politeness, Peter still manages to act like Peter Griffin. Dumb, impulsive, and completely inappropriate. The cultural blend is quirky and unexpected, but Japanese Peter doesn't do much beyond the initial visual gag. No standout moments, no deep story. So he earns a solid B rank. Fun, but not unforgettable. He appears after a doctor adjusts his spine, making Peter taller, slimmer, and more proportionate. The doctor claims that this is Peter's true body form. At first, Peter enjoys his new look, walking confidently, attracting women who think he's Slender Man. But over time, he starts feeling empty and nostalgic for his old chubby self. He realizes that being tall doesn't make him feel like himself. The real Peter is the goofy, chaotic ball of energy we've known all along. Because this version lacks humor and classic Peter personality, Giant Peter ranks B. After becoming Giant Peter, Lois tries to bring Peter back to normal by tearing him down, emotionally, saying harsh things to reduce his inflated ego. But since Peter already has so many flaws, Lois overdoes it and ends up shrinking him into a miniature-sized Peter. Now barely as tall as a shoe, Tiny Peter looks hilarious and pitiful, but doesn't get much screen time or development. While visually funny, this version lacks emotional impact or a strong narrative arc. Tiny Peter ranks B for being a fun visual gag, but not much else. He appears in a cutaway when Peter recalls his childhood, specifically the moment when he was teething. Instead of taking him to a doctor, his parents rubbed whiskey on his gums to numb the pain. This short but hilarious flashback shows that Peter's chubbiness and chaotic charm were present from the very beginning. It's a quick gag, but it perfectly captures the origins of who Peter Griffin would become. Because without baby Peter, there'd be no Peter today. He earns a solid rank A. After watching Grizzly Adams on TV, Peter is inspired by how confident and rugged the man looks. Wanting the same aura, Peter grows out a thick brown beard, transforming himself in the process. With his wild facial hair, Peter looks at least 20 years older, like someone who's been living off the grid in the forest for a decade. But his beard quickly becomes a problem. It itches, traps food, and birds mistake it for a nest. Eventually, Peter lets birds lay eggs in it, and when they hatch, he raises them like his own children, showing a surprisingly tender, animal-loving side. Funny and unexpectedly heartwarming, Beard Peter earns a well-deserved rank A. In this special viewer mail episode, Peter accidentally opens a beer bottle that contains a genie. He's granted some wish, and after being threatened by a bully on a bus, Peter blurts out that he wishes he had no bones. And just like that, Boneless Peter is born. Now he's basically a walking puddle of jelly, floppy, squishy, and unable to hold himself up. Still as dim-witted and clueless as ever, Peter soon becomes depressed by how useless and inconvenient his new form is. At one point, he even tries to end his life, believing he's become a burden to his family, but survives and somehow becomes a Hollywood sensation.
Cut and print. That's a wrap. Great job, Peter.
Eventually, each family member donates some of their bones to help Peter regain a semi-normal form. While the story isn't the most outrageous or iconic, it offers a rare emotional arc with themes of sacrifice and family love. Boneless Peter earns an A rank. Pillow Peter appears during a serious conversation between Brian and Rita about Rita's health. Just when things are getting heartfelt, Pillow Peter pops in to completely ruin the moment. He's literally a gray pillow with Peter's face, looking like a hybrid between a cushion and a mischievous gremlin. Despite being imaginary, Pillow Peter acts just like the real Peter, childish, disruptive, and utterly clueless. He goads Brian into making bad decisions, throwing off the conversation with his ridiculous suggestions. A short gag character, Pillow Peter earns a light laugh but not much more, so he gets a rank B. British Peter appears in viewer mail number 2, an episode made from scripts submitted by actual viewers. In this version, the entire Griffin family is reimagined as British, including Peter. He's still the same bumbling, reckless, and clueless Peter, just with a thick British accent, an old-fashioned outfit, and a very posh demeanor. It's a fun twist, and the visual plus vocal differences gives the character a quirky flair, but at the end of the day, British Peter doesn't really do anything new. His personality remains identical to the original Peter, just with tea and monocles added in. It's a novelty more than a reinvention. That's why British Peter lands at a B rank. Funny for the moment, but not memorable enough to go higher. In a universe where dogs have replaced humans as the dominant species, Peter takes on the role of a pet with a short round snout, floppy ears, a dark nose, and a chocolate brown coat. Dog Peter goes from being the second whitest member of the Griffin household after Brian to being, well, just slightly whiter than Meg. Sorry, Meg. Again. This version of Peter is more aggressive, grumpier, and snappier. Literally. It's like his dialogue has been replaced with barks and growls, yet somehow it fits. Though not the most iconic variant, the role reversal concept is fun, and Dog Peter earns a solid rank B. Quirky, but not groundbreaking. In a universe where everyone has two heads, one cheerful and one permanently depressed, Peter fits right in. His happy head is the Peter we all know and tolerate, but that gloomy second head, a rare gem. It's like seeing Peter after he watched Titanic alone on a rainy Tuesday. We rarely witness Peter looking sad, so this version offers a refreshing twist. Also raises a big question. What happens when he's getting busy? Does the sad head just cry in the corner? For its uniqueness, absurdity, and meme potential, double-headed Peter earns an A rank. Not loud, not flashy, but definitely unforgettable. In the Disney-themed universe, Lois gets a royal glow-up as a gorgeous princess, while Peter looks like a middle-aged choir uncle who sings about breakfast. Seriously, Disney Peter appears older, yet somehow becomes pleasant, cheerful, polite, and even sings beautifully like he's auditioning for a Broadway reboot of Bambi. But here's the thing. He's just too wholesome. Gone are the impulsive decisions, the chaos, the absurdity. This isn't our Peter anymore. He's nice, yes, but he's also boring. And we don't tune into Family Guy for nice. That's why Disney Peter lands a safe but forgettable rank C. Sweet, but not the disaster piece we all love. In one of Family Guy's weirdest medical experiments, Peter gets injected with a gay gene and instantly transforms into a full-on flamboyant version of himself. With slicked back hair, dangling earrings, and colorful, borderline ridiculous outfits, Peter also adapts a way of walking, talking, and behaving that makes everyone around him feel a bit uncomfortable. Lois and the rest of the Griffin family are heartbroken and confused, while Peter's friends, like Joe and Quagmire, become unfortunate targets of his overly affectionate behavior. For 2.5 weeks, Peter struts around Quahog as a stereotypical gay man, wreaking emotional havoc and turning every social encounter into a cringe fest. Eventually, the injection wears off and Peter returns to his old self, but not before leaving behind a whirlwind of awkwardness, chaos, and classic Family Guy absurdity. We place gay Peter in rank A for his unique flair, comedic impact, and unforgettable weirdness. Appearing in a cutaway parody of The Three Little Pigs, Peter the Pig shows up with his usual chubby Peter body, but with hooves for hands and feet, pointy pig ears, a round big snout, and a curly tail on his back. Though it's an extremely short scene, the ridiculous visual gag and Peter's piggy transformation deliver a burst of laughter. It's a perfect example of Family Guy's classic physical absurdity. Since it makes such a strong comedic impact in such a short time, Peter the Pig earns a solid rank A. During his 25-year high school reunion, Peter makes a dramatic entrance dressed as an astronaut, wearing a gold chain and topping it off with a cowboy hat. An absolutely bizarre fashion combo, unless you're Peter Griffin. Why the outfit? Peter is trying to convince his old classmates that he'd become a secret agent, an astronaut, and a millionaire all at once. Classic Peter exaggeration.
You're Tom Brady from the New England Patriots! Oh man, I gotta tell you, you kick ass, man! In fact, I was just saying that the other day to all the guys down at the brewery.
But it all comes crashing down when he accidentally reveals he works at a brewery, causing the crowd to burst into laughter and see him exactly as they used to. Though it was a short moment, Astronaut Peter perfectly captures Peter's lovable need to impress, even through outrageous lies. He doesn't have much screen time, but the scene is hilarious and memorable. That earns him a solid rank B. In a fantasy universe where every character is a child, Kid Peter and his gang of pals, Quagmire, Joe, and others, are seen walking into school, playing around, and causing chaos like classic cartoon kids. He's still the same clueless, impulsive Peter, but this time, his child-sized body actually matches his eternal immaturity, making his antics all the more fitting. And surprisingly, adorable. This segment revolves around Peter and Quagmire both trying to win over Kid Lois, only for Family Guy to deliver a perfect comedic twist. Lois ends up choosing Mort.
Sorry I'm late, darling. I was checking my stool for blood.
Mort Goldman!
He's so clever.
There's no high-stakes drama or emotional arc here, just pure childhood silliness brought to life through nostalgic schoolyard mischief. That's why Kid Peter earns an A rank, not for power or depth, but for being one of the most lighthearted and charming takes on Peter we've seen in the series. Lady Peter makes a brief but unforgettable appearance in Angela's daydream when she sees Peter without his glasses. In her mind, Peter transforms into a glamorous woman, complete with sparkling blue eyes, lush eyelashes, and a dandelion in hand, striking a pose that's oddly seductive? It's a glimpse into the terrifyingly hilarious possibility. What if Peter were a woman? The result? A version just as bizarre, awkward, and chaotic, only with lipstick and mascara. Though it's a fleeting fantasy moment, Lady Peter earns a rank B for being an unexpected, comically unsettling treat. Stool Peter appears in a cutaway where Peter plays the role of Deadpool, a sarcastic, fourth-wall-breaking superhero.
This is the best thing to happen to me since I became a wisecracking, fourth-wall-breaking superhero. Call me Red Stool.
In this parody, Peter becomes Red Stool, a chubby, wisecracking, and surprisingly agile fighter. Despite his extra pounds, Red Stool Peter is cool, dangerous, and funny, firing off quips while taking down enemies. However, his biggest flaw? He's suffering from butt cancer. Gross, absurd, and exactly the kind of humor you'd expect from Family Guy. With a perfect blend of action, comedy, and chaos, Red Stool Peter stands out as one of the most memorable and over-the-top versions of Peter. Red Stool Peter earns a well-deserved rank S. In Peter's retelling of Cinderella, Prince Peter appears at the royal ball where he meets Cinderella, Lois, and instantly falls in love. As Lois rushes out at midnight, she leaves behind not just a glass slipper, but also a box of condoms. Determined, Prince Peter sets off across the kingdom to find the mysterious woman, and in classic fairy tale fashion, they live happily ever after. Though he's charming and devoted, Prince Peter doesn't have much screen time or comedic depth compared to other versions. So while he's sweet and romantic, he just doesn't stand out. That's why Prince Peter lands a solid B rank. Pleasant, but not unforgettable. In this episode, when Peter and Lois start thinking about having another baby, Stewie begins to feel threatened, fearing he might lose his spot as the beloved youngest child. So what does Stewie do? Of course, he built a robot Peter designed to exhaust Lois in bed so much that she'll lose interest in having more kids. The robot looks identical to the real Peter and even features a control panel inside its stomach. Classic Stewie tech. But here's the kicker. Even when creating a copy, Stewie couldn't make Peter any smarter. The robot ends up being just as clumsy, childish, and hilariously ineffective as the original. It's a fun and absurd concept, but Robot Peter doesn't get much screen time and mostly serves as a short-term gag in Stewie's master plan. That earns him a solid rank B. In Season 4, Episode 29, Peter hilariously cosplays as Spider-Man just to make Lois happy. Spider-Man Peter is shown climbing along a clothesline between buildings, singing a soft and romantic tune. His belly hilariously pokes out of the tight Spidey suit, too small for his oversized frame. While he's nowhere near as slick as Tobey Maguire, Peter's genuine effort to cheer Lois up makes the scene incredibly heartwarming. And the song? Surprisingly catchy and sweet. For being funny, wholesome, and kind of adorable, Spider-Man Peter swings into rank S. In the episode Peter's Progress, Cleveland's Jamaican cousin, Madame Claude, reveals Peter's past life, and it turns out he was Griffin Peterson, the founding father of Quahog. Griffin Peterson was an honorable and hardworking man exiled by King Stuart so the king could steal his fiancée, Lady Redbush. After months lost at sea, Peterson finally arrived in the New World, naming the new land Quahog and building it into a prosperous town. Eventually, Lady Redbush finds out he's still alive and sails across the ocean to reunite with him. In true Peter fashion, he kills his current wife to be with Redbush. Later, he leads the people of Quahog in a revolt against King Stuart, securing the town's independence once and for all. Griffin Peterson stands out as one of Peter's most competent and inspiring versions. Brave, determined, and surprisingly strategic. Still, his ruthless decision to murder his own wife shows that a bit of the original Peter always lingers. Regardless, this version earns a solid S+ for being heroic, legendary, and deeply entertaining. Appearing in a cutaway gag while Peter brags about his amazing singing voice, Mermaid Peter shows up with long flowing hair and a shiny blue fishtail. His voice is so beautiful and angelic that if you only heard it, you'd imagine a gorgeous mermaid. But as the camera pans down, you're hit with the harsh reality. Peter's chubby, hairy torso awkwardly attached to a mermaid's tail. The contrast between the angelic voice and Peter's absurd appearance creates the kind of absurd humor Family Guy is known for. Though the scene is short and lacks deeper narrative, Mermaid Peter is visually funny and memorable, earning a solid rank B. While attending a concert by the Cherry Poppin' Daddies, where everyone wore pants with dangling chains, Peter got tangled up in the crowd and had both his arms ripped off. After treatment, his arms grew back, but hilariously short, giving us a new version, Short-Armed Peter. With his tiny, stubby arms, Peter struggles with basic tasks, reaching into cabinets, folding clothes, eating, even swimming. But true to his nature, he doesn't let it bother him and keeps living life with chaotic joy across Quahog. Short-Armed Peter delivers strong visual comedy while staying true to Peter's energetic spirit. Definitely an A-rank version. During a medical experiment at the hospital, Peter volunteers to have squirrel DNA injected into his body. The result? He grows a fluffy tail, long front teeth, and pointy ears, transforming into a full-on squirrel version of himself. His squeaky sounds and jittery squirrel-like movements prove that the experiment was an overwhelming success. However, the screen time for Squirrel Peter is too short, and he doesn't get a chance to shine or contribute meaningfully to the episode's plot. Because of the limited appearance and impact, Squirrel Peter earns a rank B. Quirky, but not quite memorable. Inspired by the myth of King Midas, who turned everything he touched into gold, Midas Peter has a twisted version of that gift. Everything he touches turns into Robin Williams after getting struck by lightning. At first, Peter is thrilled and begins wreaking havoc all over Quahog, transforming the entire town into Robin Williams lookalikes. But when he accidentally turns his own family into Robin Williams clones, the horror finally sinks in. In a moment of despair, he tries to end it all, only to turn the gun into Robin Williams too. Although the storyline isn't filled with action or emotional highs, it leaves behind a surprisingly deep message. Unchecked power can quickly spiral into tragedy. That's why Midas Peter earns a solid A rank, both hilarious and haunting in its own bizarre way. Appearing in a brief cutaway, Moose Peter is the result of genetic splicing gone wrong, and boy, it's weird. He walks in with a human body, moose head, and giant antlers, asking in the dumbest voiceover, "Lois, quick question, do we have any Tylenol?" No context, no explanation, just classic nonsensical Family Guy humor at its best. Moose Peter gets a rank B, funny and absurd, but not enough screen time or depth to go any higher. In a spontaneous decision, Peter grows a mustache. Instead of compliments, Brian mocks him for looking very gay. Ignoring the judgment, Peter fully embraces mustache culture, wearing denim, watching sunrises, cooking for his kids, and behaving like a true gentleman. He even joins the Quahog Mustache Society and becomes a devoted member. During a rescue mission with fellow mustache wearers, Peter manages to save lives from a burning building, but his beloved mustache gets burned off, leaving him heartbroken. This version shows us a more mature, cultured, and responsible side of Peter, quite unlike his usual chaotic self. For giving the character depth while still being funny, Mustache Peter earns a solid rank A. In a DC Universe themed episode, the Griffin family steps into the roles of superheroes, and Peter becomes none other than Superman, the Man of Steel. Wearing the iconic blue and red suit, Peter is seen soaring through the sky, showcasing immense super strength and saving the world time and again from villains and disasters. For the first time, we witness a version of Peter who is not clumsy or destructive, but instead serious, brave, and heroic, truly embodying the essence of a superhero. While he still retains traces of his typical Peterness, Superman Peter proves that even the goofiest man in Quahog can become Earth's greatest protector in another universe. Thanks to his bold transformation and his undeniable heroic impact, Superman Peter earns a solid rank S. After losing his job, Peter spirals into a funk, staying home for 2 weeks doing absolutely nothing. He spends his days watching TV, chugging soda, eating pizza and fast food, causing his body to balloon into an immobile mess. With sagging skin and clothes that no longer fit, Peter becomes so large he needs Brian to operate a forklift just to move him around. This version of Peter is utterly useless and harmless, contributing nothing to the household except taking up space. While somewhat humorous, Obese Peter isn't all that memorable and earns a solid rank B. Trying to surprise Meg for her birthday, Peter disguises himself as a homeless clown named Pea Pants. He shows up in tattered clothes, a messy blonde wig tucked under a worn-out cap with a visible patch on the corner. Though he tries to put on a small magic trick, in true Peter fashion, the act fails miserably and ends up more awkward than magical. While definitely funny in a chaotic way, Pea Pants doesn't stand out significantly and earns a rank B. Appearing in a cutaway during Cleveland's introduction of his cousin Madame Claude, who claims to see people's past lives, Peter says he might have once been a strawberry. In a sunny field, Peter the Strawberry is happily enjoying life until a giant worm shows up and chews a hole right through him. Peter becomes devastated, realizing he can never become a delicious pie now. Though his screen time is short, the bizarre concept and tragic comedic tone make this version surprisingly memorable. Peter the Strawberry earns a solid rank A. Old Peter appears in a cutaway when Peter argues with the waiter Scott about ordering food.
We have to focus all our attention on our hostess now.
He just needs a little time.
While Peter rambles on and on, Scott waits until Peter grows old and frail, with white hair, a bald spot, wrinkled skin, and lying on his deathbed.
Scott, I'm finally ready to hear the specials.
This version shows us a completely different Peter. No longer mischievous or chaotic, not yelling or being a clown. Old Peter is silent, weak, and resigned, as if he's finally let go of all the antics that once defined him. Though a brief moment, Old Peter is surprisingly touching, making viewers pause and wonder, could Peter ever truly change? For this emotional twist, Old Peter earns a solid rank A. Peter Chocolate makes a quick appearance in a cutaway gag from I Never Met the Dead Man when Brian mentions the time Peter tried to quit his candy addiction.
Face it, Peter, you're addicted to television, and you're not exactly Mr. Cold Turkey either. Remember that time you tried to give up candy?
The scene cuts to Peter visiting Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, surrounded by sweets, temptations, and pure sugar chaos. And shockingly, Peter doesn't eat a thing.
I'll ask you one more time. Are you sure you didn't eat anything in my factory?
No.
I'm just asking.
What are you, calling me a liar?
No, I'm just saying.
Hey, shut up, Wonka.
No chaos, no candy binge, no meltdown. Just Peter being unusually calm in a candy-coated wonderworld. While this version only lasts a few seconds, the parody and visuals make it a fun, quirky take. But because it's more of a visual gag than a fleshed-out character, Peter Chocolate lands at a solid B rank. Sweet, silly, but not especially memorable. Peter Han Solo stands out as one of the most iconic alternate versions of Peter and Family Guy's Star Wars parody trilogy, including Blue Harvest, Episode 1 of Season 6, Something Something Something, Dark Side, episode 20 of season 8, and It's a Trap, episode 18, season 9. Taking on the role of Han Solo, the charming, rogue smuggler, and pilot of the Millennium Falcon, you might expect Peter to rise to the occasion. But nope, Peter remains Peter. Instead of the badass rebel with a blaster, we get a goofy, irresponsible man-child who flies a falcon like he's going grocery shopping, constantly misses every shot, and manages to keep cracking jokes in the middle of intergalactic warfare. And that's the genius of it. Even when cast as a legendary sci-fi hero, Peter never breaks character. He brings his signature Family Guy chaos to the Star Wars universe, turning every intense moment into pure comedic nonsense. For staying true to himself while parodying one of pop culture's biggest icons, Peter Han Solo earns a well-deserved rank S. In this segment, from viewer mail number 1, the Griffin family is exposed to radioactive waste, and each member gains a superpower. Peter's power? Shapeshifting into anything he wants. But instead of becoming a hero, helping people, or fighting crime, Peter, in true Peter fashion, uses his powers to mess with everyone, cause chaos, and even tries to become the ruler of Quahog. With great power comes total corruption. Peter becomes an overpowered menace, using his abilities for pranks, power trips, and domination. It's only after Mayor Adam West develops leukemia due to their reckless behavior that the Griffins finally realize what they've done and commit to using their powers for good. Though Peter eventually seeks redemption, the damage he caused was massive. Still, this version is both hilarious and thought-provoking. It shows us a rare Peter with real power and what happened when it's misused. Superhero Peter earns an S rank, not just for the wild entertainment, but because it's one of the few times Peter faces the weight of responsibility. Peter Jack appears in the fairy tale version of Jack and the Beanstalk during the episode Grim Job, where Peter is reading bedtime stories to Stewie. This version of Peter stays true to the character. Lazy, clueless, and unmotivated. When sent to sell the family's only cow, he returns not with money, but with magic beans. Fortunately, the beans grow into a massive beanstalk overnight, and Peter climbs it, defeats the giant, and brings home a golden egg-laying chicken, saving the family from poverty. Peter Jack is the perfect example of fortune favors the foolish. Every bit of success comes through sheer dumb luck, but maybe luck is a superpower. And if it is, Peter has infinite amounts of it. For that reason, Peter Jack earns an A ranking. In Pawtucket Pete, Season 17, Episode 9, Peter's life takes a surprising turn when new management at the brewery decides to revamp the Pawtucket Patriot brand. And they choose Peter as the new company mascot. For once, Peter takes his job seriously. He films commercials, shows up at high-profile public events, and even gets crowned Spokesman of the Year by Adweek. The town loves him, and for the first time, Peter becomes a beloved public figure adored by fans everywhere. But the spotlight doesn't last long. Brian, hired as Peter's assistant, slowly steals the show, wins over the crowd, and ultimately replaces Peter as the face of the brand. Still, in this version of Peter shows something we rarely see: dedication, charm, and public admiration. He brought joy to the people and became a symbol of success. For all that, Peter Mascot deserves an S+ ranking. Peter the Woodcutter makes a brief but unforgettable appearance in the Little Red Riding Hood fairy tale, part of the Grim Job episode as well, where Stewie plays Red and Brian is the big bad wolf. Just as Brian is about to devour Stewie, Peter appears out of nowhere with a chainsaw, slicing the wolf clean in half. But as Stewie ponders, is this guy a hero or just a maniac with good timing? A blood-curdling scream from the neighbor's house answers the question. Peter's deranged smile, lightning-lit entrance, and casual violence transform him from comedic goofball to full-blown slasher villain. Though he only shows up for a moment, Peter the Woodcutter leaves a lasting, chilling impression far from his usual humorous self. That's why Peter the Woodcutter earns an S rank, for sheer shock value and unforgettable energy. When Chris joins a space training camp, the Griffin family visits and ends up boarding a spaceship for a tour. In true Family Guy fashion, Chris accidentally launches the ship, sending the entire family into outer space. Here, Peter finally gets to be a real astronaut, wearing an authentic spacesuit, looking way cooler and more legit than his earlier reunion getup. But of course, the first thing Peter does in space is pull out his phone and watch YouTube and read news, like he never left Earth. Despite being in an epic setting, Peter is still Peter. Goofy, clueless, and hilariously disconnected from the gravity of the situation. Literally. It's a funny version, but without much development. That lands him at a respectable rank B. Wolverine Peter appears on a cutaway when Quagmire suggests a trip to San Francisco, and Peter immediately imagines himself as a member of the X-Men, specifically Wolverine.
Sure, yeah, I could take you somewhere. I'm going to San Francisco next week. You guys want to come?
He dons the classic orange Wolverine suit with a black mask, blue gloves, and armored boots, looking quite badass, until you notice the bulging belly. Instead of Hugh Jackman's muscular frame, we get a chubby Peter squeezed into a tight superhero outfit, creating a hilarious visual that completely ruins the heroic vibe. Despite the iconic costume, Wolverine Peter lacks depth, action, and story, so he earns a solid rank B. Appearing in a classic cutaway gag, Peter claims he wants to go back to his true species and instantly transforms into a giant green lizard.
It's all right. We'll be in good hands with Dr. Hartman. He handled my reassignment surgery.
Lizard Peter has a long tail, walks on 2 feet, and is still kinda chubby. Despite the reptilian makeover, he retains that signature dumb, clueless Peter vibe that we all know and maybe love. It's a quick, silly scene with no plot significance, but it delivers that trademark Family Guy absurdity. For that reason, Lizard Peter earns a solid rank B. Funny, but not legendary. Rock Peter makes his debut in The Road to the Multiverse during Brian and Stewie's journey through alternate universes. In one Stone Age-inspired reality, Peter transforms into a surprisingly well-dressed caveman. He's rocking a jagged-edge orange tunic, a blue necktie, and even a neatly tied-up hair bun. Possibly the most sophisticated look Peter has ever pulled off. But the moment he speaks, it's crystal clear.
But we still always use a rockphylactic. I'm riveted for your pleasure.
He's still the same old Peter, clueless, chaotic, and proudly unaware. Though his appearance is brief, Rock Peter stands out with a fun visual twist and a dash of prehistoric charm. That's enough to earn him an A rank. For style points, if nothing else. There are still many other versions of Peter that are just as fascinating, but we couldn't cover them all in this video. If there's a version of Peter that you found most memorable, be sure to let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video from Quahog Corner.